Welcome to the Dropping Gems con Muchos Colores podcast. I am your host, Araceli Lagunas. This is an audio community where we own and share our stories as trailblazer moms, crafting a unique and meaningful work lifestyle, leading with passion, breaking barriers, and chasing bold dreams on our own terms. Celebrating our Latina motherhood voices to bring you genuine insights of the highs, the lows, and in-betweens of working moms from a first-gen Latina lens. We don't have to travel this journey alone. Let's get started. In today's episode is Araceli Fernandez, a Mexican American Latina mom from Chicago. Araceli has 3 children, ages 14, 12, and 7, with 2 boys and 1 girl. Araceli became a mom at age 17, and she is a medical coder in health information management. She also holds a registered medical assistant certification, and we're very happy to have Araceli in our Dropping Gems con Muchos Colores podcast. Welcome, Araceli. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
It's an honor to be here with you, Araceli. I was so excited when you invited me to come on over. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. And we are excited to learn a little bit more about your story, in particular with our Latino community, as we know that you became a mom at a young age, and we're very eager to learn how is your journey and all the wonderful things that you have accomplished up until today. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit more about working in healthcare? I know that that's something that you've been working in the last couple of years. So if you can share with us your experience working in the healthcare industry.
Of course. So I've been working in the healthcare industry for about 11 years. I started in my early 20s. The healthcare industry provides you with so much knowledge as well as with endless career opportunities. And I learned that when I first started. Like, you can do so many things in healthcare because healthcare is always going to be in demand, which is why I wanted to do something in healthcare, because I knew there was always going to be a job out there in healthcare, right? So I started 11 years ago as a registered medical assistant, and I've worked in different specialties like neurosurgery, pediatrics, nephrology, and my all-time favorite that was my passion is obstetrics and gynecology, so OB-GYN. I did that for 5 years, and it was amazing. I liked that I was able to relate to my patients in a personal level as being a woman and as being a mom, because, pregnancy is hard. So I was able to relate to my patients, and I loved my job, and I love doing that every single day.
And I think in
Absolutely.
healthcare, it's very important to have individuals that really care. It's just like you said, it's an on-demand industry, but it's also very humane, to be in the healthcare industry, because you're helping patients and you're helping people that really need the care. So thank you
Yes.
for your service in healthcare.
Thank you.
And we know that you became a young parent. Can you tell us a little bit more about how becoming a young parent has shaped you to who you are today?
So the person that I am today is due to the life lessons I learned along the way with raising children at a young age. I had Leo, who is my oldest now. I had him when I was 17 years old. At 17, you have no idea what's going on in the world. You've had the privilege and luxury of, having food at the table, having a roof over your head. And, I didn't know how to pay a bill, or that, I didn't know how to do anything. I was 17. So I've been shaped by it because I've had to grow up quickly. I needed to get it together. I needed to make sure that my child was going to have someone who was stable, who put them first and made them priority. So I've learned along the way that it's okay to be outspoken. I was so scared to be outspoken when I was younger, because, as a Latino community, they say, oh, you're 17 now, you're done. You're not going to have a future. You're not going to have anything. And I would just take it in, and I would just be quiet. And, I was a people pleaser, I think you can say. But I've learned that I can be outspoken. I've learned to say no. I've learned not to be a people pleaser. And some people might think that because I am the way that I am, of saying no and not being a people pleaser and bending over backwards for whoever wants or needs something from me. They say my demeanor comes out strong, and it's okay, because at the end of the day, my demeanor is strong because of the stuff that I've learned, the lessons that I've learned in my life for my children. So, I'm noble, I'm successful, and that's thanks to my children. They've taught me what I needed to know to be a great parent and to be the adult that I am today. It's just, you need to be focused, and that's something that they teach you. You don't think about it at the time when you have a newborn who's crying at 2 in the morning and then wakes up again at 4 in the morning, and you can't afford formula. You don't think about that stuff. You're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, what did I get myself into? But every life experience since I was 17 to now that I'm in my 30s has made me who I am, because I've learned to take everything, whether it's a pro or a con, and make it better for myself. I
Yeah.
have to. You, as a parent, you have to make it better for yourself.
Yeah, no, I would agree. That's the challenges definitely help you, right? And becoming a stronger person, right? Maybe the challenges do not become easier, but then you become stronger and you're able to face them more boldly. But you mentioned something very important, and I think that I believe parenting at any age is challenging, but it can be
Yes.
more challenging for young parents. Like you said, if you're 17, you have maybe less available resources. Someone who is young may not have as much work experience, so their income gets impacted, right? Like you said, being able to afford formula and all that stuff could be a challenge. However, like you said, it doesn't mean that that is the end road, right? One of the things I learned in parenting is that everything is temporary, right? Sometimes the challenges we have as parents may seem forever, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel because parenting
Oh
is
yeah.
challenging, right? So you brought up some good points that yes, it was very challenging for you as a young adult, but where you are today is is a definition of all the challenges that you endure and all the things that you have overcome that have made you a stronger parent.
Absolutely.
And you brought up the challenges as a young parent. What do you think are some of the stigma around young parenting?
So the stigma about young parenting is the biggest one that I can still hear today is that my life was going to be over. You're 17, you have a child, you are no longer gonna have any possibilities to an education or having a career, that I've thrown away my future. I remember hearing that so much. And what hurt it the most, that I heard it from my own family. You would think, blood runs through your veins, you're always going to stick together, but it's not true. And again, it goes back to the people pleaser. I've learned to stay away from the people that wouldn't be there for me, to support me, because at the end of the day, it wasn't only for me, it was also for my family. So that's the biggest stigma, that your life is over, but it's not. It's not over. It's what you make the best of it. You have to prioritize different things, and your plans might change. However, you're not over. Your life is never over. It's just a matter of how you address it and how you prioritize things that you had planned, for a certain time in your life. Now they might have to be changed a little bit. you know um my life isn't over. I'm thriving. I'm successful. I'm happily married to what my boyfriend, who was at the time Leo's father. So I've been married to him for the past 13 years. We're happily married. I can provide a stable home for my children. So it's not over. It's just, is it going to be hard? Yes, absolutely. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge, but you can never let anyone tell you that your life is over, because the one that's driving, the one that's taking care and is doing everything is you. You're the
Yeah.
one that's in the driver's seat. You're the one that is going to be up all night if you want to be, going to school and working and having children and whatever the case might be. You're in charge, not everyone else, not what everybody else says, not about what the world thinks is right or is wrong. No, you're in charge of your life. It's up to you to want to do it and want to succeed.
You're the only one that knows what's better for you. You're the driver on the seat. Parenthood is the leading reason that teen girls drop out of high school, and more than half of teen mothers never graduate from high school. But on the contrary, you went ahead and moved forward. You got your GED, and like you said, you now work in an industry that you enjoy and in a job that you really enjoy. And I believe in our community, in our Latino community, there's a lot of stigma around parenting at a young age, but it also has a root cause to that, right? In our families, it's pretty taboo to talk about sexual education. And
Right.
what caught my attention is that even though the pregnancy rate has decreased from 1990 to 2008, the rate amongst African American and Hispanic teen girls are over 2.5 times higher than teen pregnancy around non-Latino and non-African American girls. So can you share with me a little bit more of, maybe what would have been some helpful or resources back when you were a young teenager that would have been helpful?
Communication with my parents would have been very helpful. I grew up in a household where both of my parents worked full time. And back then it wasn't as easy as maybe myself or yourself, where we can request a day off work and be like, hey, my kid has this going on in school, a field trip or whatever the case might be, and I'm going to take the day off and be with my child. Back then it was, they were scared if they lost a day or missed a couple hours of work, they were going to get fired. I'm coming from immigrant parents where they need a job or else they can't provide for their families. And that I understand that now as an adult, as a parent myself. But when I was younger, I craved that attention and that communication from my parents, because I don't know about you, Araceli, but like for me, like I didn't have anyone in my assemblies or anything like that, because both of my parents were working. And I remember being upset about it, but again, now that I am an adult, I understand, I understand. But the thing is that with a lot of Latino homes, the communication, we lack communication with our children. And I've made that a priority with both my husband and I, that we need to communicate with our kids, because if we do not, we don't know what's going on in their life, in their mind, and their feelings. And then they don't know what's going on in ours. Like, they know when mom's had, a very busy day at work and I'm flustered and I'm frustrated, and be like, hey guys, you're like, you know what? We're just gonna chill today. We're gonna just, order out or do something, but we all just need to relax, because if I can't focus, I can't focus on my kids. And if my kids are having a bad day or, they're flustered in school, I need to know, because I need to be able to communicate and help them, I left high school, very early on, so I missed the part of the sex ed. But I know now in school they provide, I think even starting in 6th grade, because my daughter's in 6th grade, and they're starting the sexual education courses early. And I think it's great, because a lot of parents, I don't know if they're afraid, or I don't know if they don't know how to bring it up, the sexual education for the children, or education in general, life experiences, and they don't know how to do that. And then what happens is that our children hear it from someone else, or TV or social media, and then their mind wanders, So I
Yeah.
think communication is key. That is something that I wish I would have had with my parents, was the communication.
It's very important to have that open communication. And like you said, yes, now children are being taught at school earlier about sex education as early as 5th grade. So that is great, that not to wait until high school. My other question to you is, you mentioned a couple of things that you like to do with your children to be more engaged, to keep the communication lines open. What do you enjoy the most with your children?
So I like to, so I pick them up from school. I like to ask them about their day. I always ask them, how was school? And my oldest will tell you it was boring. Well, why was it boring? Like, you don't go to school to socialize and have a good time and party. So you go to school to get an education. So why was it boring? And then from there, he kind of just opens up and tells me how his day at school was, and, what subject he learned and what friends he made. And the thing is, I like to communicate with them. So I like to ask them and that's all it's going to take, is asking them, how was your day? How was your day in school? you know, and we love to watch movies together. We haven't gone to the movie theater since the pandemic, so we're feeling a little, homesick to the movie theater. So we're planning on going for Christmas Day. Now the debate is which movie to watch because Matrix is coming out, Spider-Man is coming out. So we like to do family, things like that of going to the movies and spending time all of us together. But again, it goes back to the communication. I like to ask them how their day was in school or how their activity was, if they make any new friends. And, my oldest does have social media. I think he's, on Snapchat. And the reason he has it is because I trust him, right? And I trust him to tell me what is going on with him and his friends of like, oh, this friend did this, or I want to go out with my friend. And that's the only way I'm going to know, okay, he's spoken about this friend before. He sounds like he's a good kid. I can trust him to go out with his friend. But I wouldn't know that if I didn't ask him before, like, how was your day? That's how it starts. So um back to the communication is key. So asking them how their day was is very important to me, and then also spending time with them and watching movies. Even when you're watching a movie, like the smallest conversation comes up and then it turns to a whole humongous conversation. So that's definitely something that we all enjoy doing together, is watching movies.
That's great. My family also loves movies. And like you said, we try to do things that we can do together as a family. We, of course, enjoy
Hmm.
things on ourselves, but we do have a dedicated family time that we can all enjoy. And movie tends to be the one of the top three things that we enjoy
Oh
doing as
yeah.
a family. So, what is something that you would say that was became an opportunity, something that maybe you failed at, and then you learn a valuable lesson from that?
So when I read this question that you had sent over, I skipped it, right? I skipped it. I went about and did, my other stuff. And I thought, like, I know there's stuff that I've done that I wasn't successful in, but what did I learn? And then I kept like circling back. So unfortunately in 2016, I failed at taking care of myself. I failed at prioritizing to take care of myself. I lost my father suddenly that year, and that took a toll on me mentally and emotionally. Like, I lost myself into a depression. Like, I fell into a depression and I developed anxiety, something that I had never dealt with before, prior to that year. And it was bad. I was struggling to get out of bed. I was struggling to function with simple daily tasks, and let alone raise my family. I wasn't capable of even doing that, you know and I think once I knew that I wasn't capable of taking care of my family is when I realized, okay, this is enough. Like, I need to get help. I need to figure out what I can do to manage this and figure it out, because a lot of people in a Latino home say, oh, you're not depressed, you're just sad because your dad just passed away, you're fine, you'll get over it, is what I would hear. You're gonna get over it. Or I would hear, te vas a resignar, right? That's what grandmas say and aunts say. It's like, you're it's just going to take time, you'll get over it. But it wasn't. It had been months since it happened. I wasn't doing well in my career as well. I was nitpicking at my husband for something that was like the dumbest thing it could be, because he left the placemat on the table, and I was like, why didn't you pick it up? And that's when I knew, like, there was nothing wrong with him. It was me mentally and emotionally. I was in the wrong. And I remember sitting down with him and telling him, like, I need help. I need to figure out what I can do for myself, because I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not here. My body's here, but mentally I am not here. So he was very, very supportive, him and his mom. I told them both, because my mother-in-law would have to watch my son while I was in therapy. So I let her know, and she was very supportive as well. And, I didn't tell my children at the time. They're going to hear about it now because I've told them I was on your podcast. But, I didn't let them know at the time, because I needed to focus on taking care of me so I can take care of them. So
Mhm.
I went to therapy for about 6 months. And I am always going to be grateful for that experience and my therapist, because she taught me so much in how, if I don't take care of myself, I cannot take care of others. I cannot take care of my family. Experience humbled me to is an issue that we should be talking about in every home, especially the Latino community, because there's so much stigma on that too, that you tell them I'm depressed or I have anxiety. And the first thing I remember my family would be like, oh, esa cosas de locos, only crazy people have anxiety or depression. And that's not true. It is not true. Anyone can have anxiety and depression. Mine was just triggered because I lost my father so suddenly, where my body and my emotions were out of whack. Like, no, I didn't even know, like my brain probably didn't know how to process it. It was in so much shock. But that's a year where I can tell you that I really did lose myself, and I really failed at taking care of myself. And I learned a huge lesson that if I can't take care of myself, I can't take care of my family. I can't be a mom. I can't be, a good wife. I can't have a great career, because you can't do any of that without you. You're the one that gets the ball rolling. I'm the one that gets my house in order, my children in order, make sure my husband does certain things that I told him to do like a week ago. I'm the one that makes sure that everything is up and going in my household, and I can't do that if I'm not well. So
Yeah.
that was a great question, because I don't think I would have ever thought of that as a failure and as a lesson. I thought about it and I'm like, that's exactly what it is. I failed, take care of myself, but I learned a valuable lesson on that. So that was a great one.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story. Our heartfelt condolences for the passing of your dad. I know that he meant a lot to you and your family. Like you said, it's not talked about in the Latino community. It's a work in progress, especially for, I would say, our traditional parents who have
Hmm.
that old school mentality. And you are correct. I hear it all the time. You know, um, Anxiety and depression is something that is just for locals, right? And
Yes.
then that's where the education comes in. And then I'm sure, like you said, you're vocal, and that's when we express back and say, no, it's not just for locals. This is what it is. This is what could happen. This is, some resources. But it is something that unfortunately is not talked about in the Latino community. And I feel that thanks to the last 2 years with the pandemic, there's been a lot more awareness on one, validating those feelings, two, finding resources, and three, getting help. Because it's interesting that, and you said I failed at taking care of myself and not asking for help. I recently had a leader ask me something similar. The question was, what is something that you wish you would have done earlier in your life? And I had to think about it for like a minute, and I said,
Yeah.
it's, I wish I would have asked for help earlier. And I think sometimes as moms, we feel we take care of all these items, right? All these action items, and we probably have the capacity to do it. But then I know for my case, it was hard for me to ask for help. And so when I started to ask for help, I realized that my wellness began to increase, because I guess I didn't know how to ask for help, and it wasn't normal for me to ask for help. So it was very hard for me to ask for help. But now that I do it, and I do it often, I do feel better after asking for the help. We're so happy that for your situation, you went and asked for professional help, which is what is the right thing to do, right? And I'm sure your therapist helped you through this experience, which I can only imagine how painful it could be, for someone losing a parent. So thank you for sharing that story with us. Other question to piggyback on that is, how have you been balancing your work life and mom life and everything else that you have going on?
So that one, I think it's an ongoing learning situation
Hmm.
every single time, because um, I've learned to be very, very organized, to the point where my husband is like, you're like OCD. And it's like, no, it's not OCD. It's about, if I am not organized, our household, our kids, our activities, our schedules is not going to work. So it's hard. it's difficult, but it is not impossible to balance work life and being a mom. All it is, again, it's prioritizing and organizing. I've tried to teach my children, and I say I've tried because they're still getting the hang of it, of like an old school planner. Like, I have an old school planner where I write everything down, because there's nothing more relief than and like satisfying of crossing it off in your planner, right? Because I did that, so I can cross it off my planner. I have it in my phone as well, and then I have a calendar, dry eraser calendar in the kitchen, where all the kids' activities and all of our week, everything that we have going on for the month is there. Because if I'm not organized, and if I'm not teaching my children to be organized, they're not going to be able to balance anything in life. Like my son Leo is in high school now, and it's completely different to grammar school. And at first I told him it's going to be a little difficult, because now you're juggling 8 different classes, 8 different teachers, 8 different assignments. So you need to be organized, and you need to learn how to balance things, balance your free time with your school time, with your activities. And he's learning now, but that's because desde chiquitos, I've tried to teach him, like, we need to be organized. You need to, like, make sure your room is clean. That's being organized. Like, making sure your laundry is put away. That is being, they need to learn these things so they can, as an adult, be successful in learning to balance their work life or their school life or their personal life. Because at the end of the day, we're only going to get busier. We're only going to get busier. We're only going to keep adding more stuff. And, of course, the overachiever that I am, I'm like, oh, I can do this or I can do that. And I'm also part of the local school council for the kids' school. So that's, once a month meetings and agendas that need to be written down. And again, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening.
Yeah,
So it
that's
needs
a
to
good,
be on there so I can,
that's a
it
good
needs
way
to
to
be
put it.
balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the way to do it. Is you need to be organized in order to be able to balance your work life and a mom life, because that's what it is. They're 2 separate things. And I remember I stayed at home for a year with my kids, and I was a stay-at-home mom for like about a year. I wanted to have that experience, and I felt like I missed a lot of milestones with my kids. And even when I was a stay-at-home mom, I still had to plan out my day or my week, because it's a lot. It's a lot. People think that because you're a stay-at-home mom, oh, you're not working. No, that's wrong. Whoever says that, have them stay a day with the kids and activities, and then they're gonna change the tone. So my stay-at-home moms will always have my heart and my blessing, because that's hard too. That's very hard. So balance is organized. I think that's my motto. Organization is key.
Yeah. I was also, I stayed home for 1 year with my kids because they were both babies. And that's the time I worked the most
Yes,
time when I was at home.
absolutely.
So yeah, I have my highest regard to stay-at-home moms.
Absolutely.
One question I had for you is, what would you tell other young moms who are parenting at a young age, or maybe they're going through that as we speak?
Your life is not over. You do not lose the right to be successful because you're a young parent. Those are words that I want you to listen and absorb, because people are going to tell you that your life is over. People are going to tell you that you're no longer going to be successful. People are going to tell you that you're going to ruin your children because you ruined yourself. Those are lies. Those are lies. Do not by any means listen to what other people have to say, because it goes back to, again, you're the one that's in charge of your life. You're the one that's going to be in charge of a child's life. And your plans and priorities might have to change a little bit along with all the goals, but everything can still happen. Everything is still at reach that you had planned. It might just take a little longer for you to accomplish, but that's okay. It's not a race. It's not about, oh my God, I wanted to do this by the time I was 21. Yeah, okay, that's great. But now you have a child. It might take a little longer, and that's perfectly fine. I did everything backwards. I had a child at 17, I got married at 18, I got a career at 20, and I bought my house just a couple years ago. So there's no certain order, there's no certain pattern for the way things should be getting done. It's about how you can get things done at the time of your life and that point. So, and as parents, especially I think as young parents, parenting is hard, but being a young parent is even harder, but we cannot teach our children that because something in our life happened that we are no longer able to achieve our goals or have any goals. That's our kids see what we do every single day. They're a sponge. They absorb everything that we do. And if I teach my children that, my life was over at 17, I wasn't going to do anything, there was nothing for my son to be proud of. What was he going to say? Oh, my mom just became a teenage mom and didn't do anything with her life. No, I wanted my son to be proud. I wanted my son to say, mom did it. Mom moved on. Mom was able to say, screw everyone else and what they had to say. She overcame and she achieved. So you need to teach your children that any goal that they set, they can accomplish. They can be an overachiever. They can do whatever they send their minds to, as well as you can set your mind to whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe you want to be a nurse, or maybe you want to be an IT. Whatever your goal is, you can still do it. And now we have so many resources to help young parents. I know, when I was a teenage mom, I don't remember until looking into resources for teenage parents. I don't even know if that was a thing, back then. I'm pretty sure it was, but I didn't know where to look for it. But now with social media and now with the internet and Google, you can look like resources for young parenting. And I've seen so many stories where students take their kids, their babies, and their teachers are holding their babies so they the parent can have an education. And by far that will always melt and have my heart, because if you have that support, it makes you want to move on. It makes you want to achieve. It makes you want to be like, oh, I can do this. I have the support. I can totally do this. So find yourself a really good support system, and anything that you set your mind to, you will achieve. You can do anything that you set your mind to, for sure.
Yeah, great advice, especially because you've been through it. You were a young parent, and you still are a young parent. And I'm sure that there are you know, audience out there that maybe are going through parenting at a young age at the time. So thank you for sharing that from a firsthand perspective. One of the things I love, one of the quotes I love is, "Goals don't have an expiration." So you're right. Whatever goal or achievement you have in mind, there is no expiration for that. So you can get that accomplished. Whether you're 15 or whether you're 30 or 40 or 50, because there is no expiration for goals, and everyone has a different timeline for goals. So also thank you for sharing that. We know that teenage mothers face economic and social strains that put pressure on them and their families, but you are absolutely correct. Teenage pregnancy does not mean that moms cannot excel in life. And I want to thank you for sharing your story and space with our audio community. And we can't wait to hear all the other wonderful things that you're going to be doing in your community and with your family. So thank you for
Thank you for
joining
having
us.
me. Of course. No, it was very fun to be here. It was awesome. And I can't thank you enough for having me in your space.
Thank you, Chelly. Thanks for listening to the Dropping Gems con Muchos Colores podcast. We have a new episode every month. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review and subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.